So welcome back. Now, in this lecture, we have to discuss about accounting for purchase of services or service invoices. Okay, so let us move on to this topic: accounting for service invoices. So when I say service invoices, it means invoices for purchase of services. Like there are a lot of services which a company is taking, like repair maintenance service, contractor service, or you can say doctor service, professional service, legal lawyer service, or any other kind of service, whatever it is. In all these cases, how the accounting is done, it is very much you can say easy to understand, but there are various laws applicable to it. Okay, labor service. Suppose you are buying contracted labor, that is also a service. All of these are service. So, what things are applicable or what laws are applicable on accounting of these services? Let us discuss on that. Okay, so one is TDS. So, TDS is only on sale of service or purchase of service, you can say, on only on services, not on goods. Okay, on goods we have discussed TCS. So, TDS is applicable, then GST is also applicable. Then there is you can say ESIC applicable, and I would take it as separate as reverse charge mechanism under GST, because it is a separate topic which we need to discuss. And I think these are the most important things which we have to discuss on accounting of services. And there are some accounting principles which we need to consider before accounting, like prepaid. Whether we have made an expense, paid an expense in advance, that's what we call as prepaid. So that's all we have to discuss in this. Now let us start with the first concept of TDS. Now what is TDS and how it is impacting our accounting of services? Okay, so you can go ahead and read this chart. I'll give you an overview of TCS. You can see the notes and read this chart completely. But I'll give you the overview, which is very most, you can say, very important in the practical life. So, what is TDS? TDS is basically tax deducted at source. At source. Now, we have learned one thing, that TCS is charged by the seller, and it is you can say deducted, or you can say taken from the buyer. Okay, in case of TCS, tax collection at source on the purchase and sale of goods. Now TDS on other account is a tax on service. Okay, it is a tax on service. It is just like income tax. Now the concept has been bought because only the same thing, just like there are a lot of people like contractors, building contractors, you repair maintenance contractors, which is an unorganized sector altogether, right? The concept has been bought into for those unorganized sector people who are not paying taxes, who are not filing their returns. So what government did is, they said the person who's paying X amount of money to these contractors will deduct a certain amount in the name of TDS, which is again a part of income tax. TDS is nothing but income tax of the person who is giving the service. So, the person or the company who is paying X amount to a contractor, to a professional, to for any kind of services to another person, then that company will deduct a certain percentage from the amount which is to be paid to the person, and that deducted amount will be deposited to the government. So this deducted amount will be called as TDS, and it is equivalent to the income tax, which is the government has defined different rates, but it is equivalent to the income tax of the person who is giving the service. Okay, the concept is brought in to tax those unorganized people, unorganized sectors who are not filing income tax returns. Simple as that. Okay. Now, this is the concept of TDS. Now, on whom it is applicable? Number one, any company who is making the payment. Remember, if an individual, like I am making my house, and in the capacity of individual, there's no company into it. I'm just calling one contractor, making the payment. I do not have to deduct TDS, right? Any individual who is making to any payment to anyone doesn't have to deduct this TDS. He is not liable. Only a company who is making payments, company or a firm, you can say business, who is making payments to a XYZ contractor, professional, or for a commission, for anything, for rent, if they are making payment for this, in that case they have to deduct TDS. Okay. Only individuals are liable to deduct TDS only in case of purchase of house property, purchase of land transactions. Okay. We will discuss that, but here it is, 194 IA in the last, compensation on transfer of certain immovable property or other agricultural land. In this case, individual also has to deduct. So, other than that, since you will be working with the companies, you have to see the most important provisions which we will discuss here. Rest you can read later on and do your things. Okay. So, now what is TDS is just like you are deducting income tax of the person concerned and paying it to the government. So when we are deducting, is the same concept altogether. When we are deducting some money from other person on behalf of government, so it is a liability for me because I am deducting it from X person, and it is a liability for me because I have to pay it to the government. It is not my money, right? So liabilities are always credited, assets are always debited. It is a simple concept. Please remember this. So whenever we deduct TDS, the accounting entry would be, you have taken a service, let's say legal services. So accounting entry would be legal services account debit to TDS, let's say 10,000 rupees amount of legal service. To TDS you have to deduct 10%, 1,000, and the balance you have to pay to the concerned person, to vendor account or supplier. So we won't say supplier, we will say creditor in this case, because supplier is usually used for the purchase of goods. So to vendor account 9,000 rupees. So ultimately after deducting 1,000 we have to pay 9,000 to the lawyer. That's how it is. It is very simple. Since TDS is a liability, hence we have to credit this. Got it? Now in what cases TDS is applicable? Now just the key things I will tell you. Number one, 194C, it is contractors. Whenever you have given a contract for repair maintenance, for furniture and fixtures, for flooring, for roofing, for you can say building, anything which is on a contract. Now what is a contract? Contract is anything, whatever the service you have taken, and you have made a contract, whether written or verbal, whatever it is a contract when you take a service from a person related to repair maintenance in general. That is how you can say it is a contract. So in that case there are two rates which you have to apply. If the contractor is individual or HUF, then TDS will be at the rate of 1%, which you have to deduct. In case of any other, or you can say a contractor is a big company who is making something, then in that case 2% TDS should be deducted. Individual HUF 1%, in case of others 2%. Now how will you identify whether the contractor is individual or any other? So it is a general concept all throughout in TDS. See the PAN number of that contractor. Okay, so PAN number is like this, CFDPS 0366T. Let's say this is the PAN number. So the fourth letter of the PAN number 1 2 3 4. The fourth letter of the PAN number will give you the idea of the person. So P means proprietor or individual. If it's a C, then it is the company. F, firm. H, HUF, right? This is how we determine whether the contractor is individual or HUF or any other, okay, the status of contractor, and then we have to decide the rate. So under section 194C there is a contract. Whenever there is a contract, the company paying for the service has to deduct TDS as per 194C, either 1% or 2% depending upon the status of the contractor, okay. Contract can be anything: repair maintenance of goods, repair maintenance of service, repair maintenance of furniture, fixture, anything. That is a contract, okay. You have to see the invoice, read the transaction, what is there, and you have to understand that, okay. We will do some cases on this, so when you read it you will understand. Now 194J. 194J is the professional service. Whenever there is a professional who's giving service. Now who is a professional? Professional is uh, a degree holder like CA, CS, lawyer, LLB, doctor. These are all professions, right? So all these are called professionals. Architect. So in these cases you have to deduct TDS at the rate of 10%, okay. I'll tell you the limits also. There are limits. Just to see here, if you can see, contractor single transaction 30,000, contractor during the year 1 lakh rupees. Now what is this limit? This limit says, suppose you hired a contractor in the name of XYZ contractors, and you have given them a contract to repair your furniture, okay. So this is the first time they are working with you, and you have given them the contract. The total amount of the contract is 25,000 rupees, okay. So whether you have to deduct TDS on them or not. Now while deducting TDS you have to see whether the contractor has worked with you previously also. If yes, in the previous year, in the same financial year. If yes, then you have to see the total value of that payment is exceeding 30,000 or not. If not, then you are not liable to deduct TDS on this 25,000 rupees, right? In the whole financial year, if in the whole financial year, now suppose one bill you have, one contract you have awarded them for 25,000. Now there is a next contract in the same financial year, again for 35,000 rupees. So the total amount of 25 35 comes to 60,000, right? In that also 35,000 you do not have to deduct TDS because it was a separate contract for something else repairing. Now there is another contract in the same financial year for again 20,000 rupees. Total comes to 80,000. Still you do not have to deduct TDS. But if in the same financial year you award them another contract of say 40,000 and the total amount exceed 1 lakh, that is 1,20,000. In that case you have to deduct TDS on the total amount altogether. In the last invoice of 40,000 rupees of contract, you have to deduct the total TDS because all the contracts were awarded in the same financial year. This is how the concept goes. But in practical life, I tell you what we do. We do not look whether there is a previous contract, whether we have given them the previous service or anything. We just deduct straight away. We do not look into these limits because when the volumes are huge, you do not know whether the contractor is coming in again or there's no you can say a system to track all of this. That's why what happen is everybody knows it, that whenever they will raise an invoice, we will deduct TDS and pay it to government whether the limit is approaching or not. Simple as that, okay. Because excess deducting TDS in excess is not a crime, but if you are deducting it in short, then you'll be liable for it. So be on the safer side, okay. So this is how we do it in the contract. Now in case of professionals, what is the limit? If you see here, where it is, salaries, interest, laundry, contractor, commission, rent, professional, here it is 30,000 limit. Okay, so rate would be 10%. There are no two rates, only two rates are there only in case of contractors. Everywhere else the rates remains the same, there are no distinction. So in case if you are paying to a professional more than 30,000 rupees in a single transaction or in the whole year, then you have to deduct TDS at the rate of 10%. Simple as that. But what we do practically, we deduct whatever the amount would be. If it's even if it's 20,000, we deduct 10%. There's no question about it. That's what all the companies do. Okay. So we've discussed about this professional. Now the service, let's say renting is everywhere. Now in renting, there are two types of renting: renting of machines, plant and machinery, and renting of building. Suppose our office building, we have taken it on rent and we are paying it to the we are paying rent to the landowner. In that case, we have to deduct TDS. So in case of plant and machinery, TDS rate is 2%. In case of you are renting a building, TDS rate is 10%. You can see it here. Here it is. Renting of plant and machinery. The cap is 2,40,000. Rate is 2%. Land and building 10%. Okay. Now again the capping is 2,40,000. So supposingly you are paying a monthly rent of 10,000. So there is a yearly rent of 1,20,000. So you do not have to deduct TDS because the total yearly rent should exceed 2,40,000, right? So if the yearly rent of plant and machinery or building exceeds 2,40,000, then only you have to deduct TDS at the rate of 2% or 10%, whatever the case may be on it. Okay. So these three sections are very major. The rest of them you can see and understand. There is no difficulty in that. Now let us take an example based upon the invoices, and we will take an example and see how the TDS being deducted, and then we will look for the accounting entry in the next lecture. Done. Till then, bye.